Hope is here. The way to break free with your host, Angela Pedigo, will light a flame within you. Host Angela Pedigo is an author, speaker, and certified life recovery, grief, and joy restoration coach. Angela uses her own life experiences to help you navigate and guide you to success. She also has developed tools that incorporate her faith and her drive to overcome any obstacle in life. So please welcome the host of The Way to Break Free, Angela Pedigo.
Welcome, everybody, to The Way to Break Free. I'm your host, Angie Pedigo. I'm so glad you could join us today. You guys are going to get to spend some time with me and my dear friend, Tabitha Swaffer. Tabitha has got an amazing story. Tabitha's been in recovery now for 22 months. She's got a big 2 years coming up pretty soon. So she's going to just come and share with us today her life, where she's been, where she's at, where she's going, and where Jesus was along the way. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I have. I've heard bits and pieces of it before, but we're just going to dive a little deeper in today. Tabitha, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's just, I have enjoyed so much watching you grow over the last few years, and to see your love for people and how much you pour into them in their own recoveries. So that they can learn you the way that I have gotten to learn you. Let's go back. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I didn't have a rough childhood like a lot of people in my shoes say they did. My parents gave me absolutely everything I needed, and the majority of what I wanted. I was spoiled. No lie. I started struggling with my weight and my appearance after I had my tonsils out.
Oh, wow. How old were you then?
I was in 3rd grade.
Oh!
I went from like a little weaselly, 70-pound 3rd grader to 150 pounds just a few years later, so it was rough. And kids are cruel.
Oh.
So,
and that's not changed even today.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. So I struggled with my weight. I struggled with how I looked. I hated how I looked in the mirror. My hair was a lot of ammo for that fire there.
Which your hair is beautiful, by the way.
Thank
People
you.
pay good money for that.
They do. I didn't know how to manage it. My mom had straight hair. The curly hair comes from my dad's side of the family. So it was just kind of, I brushed it. So that was a bad idea. And I was in high school before I learned how to do anything with this.
Yeah.
And I just have always been very self-conscious. I was very concerned about what other people thought, to the point of, if I thought you didn't like me, it would just tear me up. Like I'd be tore up about it. I'd just think about it all the time.
Yeah.
And I would like literally lay in bed at night and have conversations in my head that haven't happened, preparing myself for what might get said tomorrow, just because I didn't want to be caught off guard. I wanted to have a quick, witty comeback. At least if I couldn't, fit in, I could at least, make them laugh.
So is that something you dealt with pretty daily?
I think a lot. I mean, yes, some of it I think was more in my head. I think probably it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but when you're a kid, a lot of things are traumatic that as an adult, you're like, whatever,
Yeah.
And then as I got in high school, I started slimming up a little bit. I was still very insecure. And unfortunately, kids are cruel. And my defense mechanism was to, not only was I bullied, I would bully back. But if I ever was a mean girl to you in school, just know it's because I thought you were pretty, or I seen something in you that I wished I had.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've really tried to work on as an adult, building people up, not being mean to somebody or judging them, thinking they're going to be mean to me first. It was kind of like, if I get you before you get me, it won't hurt so bad.
It goes back to that saying, which we use this a lot in recovery, that hurt people.
Mhm.
And it's not just a cliche statement, and
It's
it
very
doesn't
true.
give us a green light to do it either, but it is very true. And sometimes the people that we hurt are not even necessarily the people that hurt us,
Mhm. Yes.
like,
They might be the type of, like, the pretty girl might have said something to me 2 years ago, and so now this pretty girl over here, I'm like, "Ugh, she's hateful," when I
yeah,
don't know her,
yeah,
and maybe she's got that look on her face because people have come at her like that,
right,
and she's just, that's her defense mechanism.
yeah, yeah,
So it's a vicious cycle with women, especially.
yeah.
Um,
Just exploring this for just a moment,
Mhm.
because bullying is a big problem.
Mhm.
It is a big problem in schools, um, just with kids in general, sometimes even at home. Adults, even parents sometimes don't realize the repercussions of the words they might say jokingly, but
Yeah.
how they take root in a child's
Mhm.
heart. It's like a little seed planted there that's beatboxing around in that head,
Mhm.
and even if they didn't mean it. But at that age, what did you need when you were going through all that? What do you think you needed? What would have helped you then?
Honestly,
Mhm.
looking back now,
Mhm.
Romans 12:2. 100%. That's my verse,
Yeah.
and I mean, that's real.
Yes. You have to renew your mind daily.
Mhm. And not be so concerned about the world and the worldly things and how other people might
Yeah.
see me.
And as a child, you wouldn't necessarily have known that
Mm-mm,
necessarily, would
mm-mm.
you? Yeah. That's a good word right there. Romans 12:2. I encourage you to go look it up. That's good food for everybody. It doesn't matter what we're going through. Um, so okay, let's fast forward from there. So you're in high school. Kids are being cruel. What was high school like?
Um, the first 2 years were terrible.
Mhm.
I was running with mostly the wrong crowd,
Mhm.
drinking, um, getting not in a lot of trouble, but little trouble here and there. Um, my junior year, I kind of swapped friend groups.
Mhm.
That don't happen often,
Mhm.
uh, but I did, and started dating a football player. And my friends were all the pretty girls and the cheerleaders, and I didn't really fit in,
Mhm.
but they let me be there.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. Like I didn't really fit with them, but they let me come along. I was
Mhm.
like the little, bratty sister or something that nobody really wants there, but just let her come on. That's how I felt. I don't
Yeah.
think they felt that way. I think
Right.
that was all within me.
Yeah.
Um,
It's amazing what we can tell ourselves when we feeling insecure,
yeah, yeah,
huh?
yeah. So the second half of high school wasn't terrible. It was, looking back, pretty good
Yeah.
compared to some of the other things that I've dealt with as an adult.
Yeah.
I had I had some pretty good friends that I'm still friends with today.
Aw.
And there was a time that we didn't really talk a lot because they didn't agree with how I was living.
Mhm.
I didn't listen. I'm pretty hard headed sometimes. I have to learn on my own.
Yeah.
But my senior year, I met my first husband,
Mhm.
and we started dating. Uh, Actually, I think it was the end of my junior year, maybe.
Mhm.
I think so. Yeah,
Mhm.
end of junior year, we started dating, and then we dated all my senior year and got married right after high school. So it wasn't a terrible, terrible time.
Mhm.
Junior high up to the first couple of years of high school was probably the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was life like as an adult? Like, you're graduating, you're newly married. Was that
It
big?
was it was it was everything I wanted.
Yeah.
We were married in June. I graduated in May. We were married in June. I was still 17. Um, and determined to make it work, whatever it took. I got pregnant 6 months later,
Mhm.
and we bought our first house. Like, life was good. We were
Yeah.
going to church. We didn't really, do a whole lot. Of course, I wasn't old enough yet to legally do any of the fun stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and then our son turned a year old in August 28th. It's his birthday. Happy birthday.
Aw,
Um,
today's his
yeah,
birthday.
he was born on August 28th. He turned a year old in 99. And on October the 1st, I got a phone call that woke me up out of bed early in the morning. It was my mother-in-law. And she said, get up, get clothes on Drew. I'm like, what's going on? She said, he's been in an accident. And I was like, okay. So I'm thinking, he worked at Fleetwood at the time. So I'm thinking something's happened at work because there was a lot of, it's when a lot of things were going wrong there. But when we got to the hospital, they told me that he had actually been in a car wreck before he ever got there. What they say, most accidents happen 5 miles from home or 5 minutes from home was true because he wasn't 2 minutes from our house.
Really?
And they came out and they told me they had him in a medically induced coma, that they were going to life flight him. So they bring him out and he looks like he's just sleeping. There's no blood, there's no cuts. So I'm thinking in my head, oh, it can't be that bad. So by the time we got to Vanderbilt, they had came out and talked to the family and told me that he wouldn't make it and that I would have 2 kids for the rest of my life if he did. He had a brain injury. That was it. There was no broken bones, no nothing. He had a gash in the back of his head like that long, and his brain was swelling. And for 2 weeks, he was in the trauma unit in this medically induced coma, so he didn't hurt himself. Brain swelling going through the roof, just crazy. And it was Vanderbilt, so it's a learning hospital. And they came and asked us if we would be willing to participate in a experimental drug. They were still testing it, and we decided that we would. What could it hurt? And it worked. The brain swelling started coming down, and within another couple of weeks, he was moved over across the street to a rehab hospital, and he did have to relearn how to walk, talk, eat, tie shoes, you name it. He had to relearn it. And it changed his personality. I don't know if you've ever dealt with anybody that's had that kind of injury. When they do get better, they're different.
Yeah.
And I took care of him for me, my family, his family. We all kind of took care of him there for a while, like he was a kid, and it just changed how I felt. I didn't not love him because I did love him, but I felt like he deserved better. I didn't love him like a woman should love her husband. So I felt like he deserved better than me. And that goes back to that not being good enough stuff.
How old were you at that point?
20.
And very young.
Yeah.
Very, very young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you grow up a lot in that situation.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was hard on everybody. It was hard on his parents. It was hard on my parents. I didn't drive in Nashville, so somebody was taking me every single day back and forth. I was working part-time. I'd work like 4 hours a day so I could go to the hospital every day. It was just, it was a really hard time for everybody.
Yeah.
And so when he comes home, I tried real hard to make it work. And I tried to just stay because that's what I should do. And I got really angry because we were going to church and doing all the adult things, paying our bills, doing the stuff. And I felt like God just ripped my life out from under me. And I was mad about it. I was real angry for a long time.
Yes. Yes.
We ended up staying together for another year. And I left. Pretty much let him have whatever. We agreed on joint custody. I took the few things that my family was like the dining room table that was my grandma's or something, but pretty much I just wanted out and I wanted it to be easy. I didn't want it to be hard on anybody, any harder than it had to be. So
did you tell me about this? I'm going to pause you right there. So had you formed a relationship with Jesus at this time?
I knew God. My dad used to preach a little when I was younger. I didn't go to church on a regular basis. I knew that there was a God, and I knew the basics of it, but I didn't have a relationship. I didn't pray on a daily basis. I didn't, seek his will on anything. I just was doing what I thought was right. I tried to do the right thing, but not necessarily what he would want me to do, how he would want me to do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, yeah, keep going. I was sitting there thinking, the reason I asked that question is because a lot of people get angry at God.
Mhm.
And, when we're looking for somebody to blame
Mhm.
in hurt times, it's easy to blame God for
Yeah.
things that God didn't do,
Yeah.
but it's hard because it's hard to separate that because sometimes we don't know the nature of God yet.
Mhm.
We don't
Mhm.
know him. We know of him. We know about him. We might even believe in him. But do we know him? Like,
Yeah. I didn't know that I was created with a purpose in mind. I
yeah,
didn't know that he knew me before he formed me. Like, these are things that I heard,
yes,
but it just didn't resonate with me.
yeah,
Like, I sat through the church and I went to Sunday school and I knew the little stories, but it just wasn't a real thing. It was like fictional to me, you
yes,
know.
yes.
Um so it was a few years down the road before I got the relationship thing.
Okay.
Um
All
so
right.
I just continued to be mad, and that's when I started having issues with depression and anxiety. So,
Well, let's before we jump off into that, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna hear a word from our sponsors and we'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
We're back from the break. Tabitha, you were just about to get into this era of your life where there's depression and anxiety. Tell
yes.
us about that.
So that's when I started trying to get my state of mind back to a normal, level. I was going to the doctor. I was getting different antidepressants. They had me on this one, then they changed it to this one. I wasn't suicidal, um, but I don't remember the terminology. I felt like everybody would just be better off if I wasn't here.
Mm,
I didn't want to die, I just didn't want to exist. If that makes any sense.
yes.
I would have the intrusive thoughts driving down the road, between here and Hartsville. I could just, be over like that real quick. And at that point, that's when I knew I had to start finding some kind of help. I also started taking diet pills at that time. The Metabolife back in the day when it had all the bad stuff in it.
Mhm.
So it really worked.
Mhm.
And I ate like 3 times a week, trying to get smaller. And even when I was small, I wasn't happy. And I didn't see that I was small. Like, it took me seeing a picture of myself. I'd been going to the tanning bed for weeks, and my body was tan. But from like here up, I was white as a ghost.
Do you think this was still like this was like old wounds from childhood stuff, like resurfacing back
Yeah.
to the top?
Absolutely. I just never felt good enough to be anything. And I can't pinpoint any one exact moment that ever, just flipped that switch for me. It was just something that I'd always dealt with. So at this point, I'm eating 3 times a week. I'm going to cardio kickboxing classes. I'm having to go shopping for clothes every other weekend because I'm losing so much weight. And I met my second husband. He was younger than me, and he was a good guy. So, we ended up moving in together, and I got pregnant. And the first husband, I had papers drew up on me saying I was an unfit mother because I was pregnant and not married. And we were living together. And hindsight being what it is, that is not how it should go. But there was a lot worse things I could have been doing. So we got married because, I wasn't going to risk losing my son, and we were going to do it anyway. So we just went ahead and done it. And he worked his butt off. He let me stay home with the kids once Adriana was born. He let me stay home with both the kids until, I wanted to go back and do something. So I went to cosmetology school. And we went to church. We were doing all the things. Then we started kind of drinking a little bit. And then I would smoke when I would drink, and then I would drink so I could smoke. And I was drinking every day just so I could smoke a cigarette. And that in itself was a problem, especially when you've got the mental health going on too. And that contributed a lot to our issues. We were young. He worked all the time. I was going to school. And then when I started working, this was before cell phones were like a big,
Yeah.
And if you had one and you lived in the holler, it wasn't going to work.
It's a service.
Yeah. So, he was used to being able to call me on every break. Every 2 hours we call. He, chit chat. And when I went back to work, he couldn't do that. And we weren't together a whole lot. And I wasn't happy. Looking back now, I say it was me. It really wasn't him. I just wasn't happy with me. There wasn't no way anybody else in the world was going to make me happy if I couldn't do it for myself.
Do you feel like you go through cycles in your life with somebody that deals with like low self-esteem or something like that, and those things are still underlying issues that, whether it's friend groups, it might start with friend groups, and then it starts with relationships, and then maybe substances, and sometimes it's careers, trying to find your identity or connection or a sense of belonging somewhere. I know, like, for me personally, in those times, it's just like you grab something and you're like chucking it to this big sinkhole that's in here because there's no self-love yet,
Yeah.
So it's hard. It goes back to the scripture in the Bible, where Jesus says, the first two greatest commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. The second's like it: love your neighbor as yourself.
Yes,
and we try to love other people when we don't love ourselves. There's an imbalance. Or if we love ourselves more than we love other people, there's an imbalance, right? It can be either way. Was it kind of like that for you at this point? Did you feel like you were just like,
yes,
whatever would fill that hole, maybe?
Yes. I had this crazy need to be appreciated, needed. I wanted people to be proud of me, and I wasn't doing anything to make them be proud of me at this point. I was messing up a lot of stuff. Even if it was little stuff at the time, it led to bigger stuff later on. So we were together for, till I think my daughter was 2 when we got divorced. So now I'm 26. I got 2 kids, 2 ex-husbands. I'm damaged goods. I'm not gonna ever be anything. That's where my mind was with that. And I started drinking every weekend to the point of blacking out. Not necessarily passing out because I would still be up doing the things, but I would have no recollection of it whatsoever. And then I met my third husband. um, he drank as much as I did, and my daughter came out one night. We had some friends over, and prior to that, I didn't really drink much around the kids. When he come into the picture, it was kind of that's what we did. We drank, and we were drinking one day, and I passed out in the backyard. And she came in the house and got him. She said, "Would you do something with her?" And he said, "Where's she at?" And she said, "She's out there in the yard." And so he comes out there, and I'm just, passed out in the yard. And that's something and she was only 8 at that time. And that's something that she, still remembers. And it's one of the big things in her book. And even then, she's, yelling at me. I'm leaning against the wall, and she's telling me how I need to do better. And she's 8. I didn't listen.
So you knew what was going on at that moment with her.
Yeah. And I remember that point. Like, I remember I was waiting for the bathroom, and I was leaned up against the wall, and she's just telling me how she feels about it. And I started sliding down the wall, and she's just followed me all the way down. Like, she's the mom at this point, and I'm the kid. And, that's something that I still remember too. Did I change anything at that point? No. But it was just another one of those things. Well, I've done messed this up, so why not just do this now, And in that relationship, I lost myself.
Did you get to a point of hopelessness? Was it
not yet?
Not yet.
I got there, but not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. He introduced me to a lifestyle and a friend group that I would not have met otherwise. I don't blame him for anything that I've gone through. We were toxic for each other. I'm sure he will make somebody a great person one day, but it was not me. We brought out the absolute worst in each other. We were married for a year and got divorced, and then got back together 2 weeks after the divorce was final. During that little vacation, I started dabbling in meth a little bit. I'd already started doing some pills here and there. The pills weren't really my thing. It was the get up and go, because I'm tired all the time. I'm big. I can't keep up with the kids. When I do the meth, I can clean the house and do the stuff and be awake. And I never really lost weight at that point, 10, 20 pounds here and there, but I was a functioning addict. So people didn't know. And it wasn't something that we did all the time until it was.
You think you can control it. And
my favorite thing to say was always, I'm doing the drugs. As long as I'm doing the drugs and they're not doing me, it's okay. And, that's a common thing in that circle. But the thing is, you don't see when that changes. Like, you think you're still in control and you're still doing the drugs, and they've been doing you a long time.
Oh yeah.
Like,
try to tell yourself, I don't care what it is. I don't care what the drug is, or people who have food addictions, even if it's something they're addicted to and you think you're not, and you're in control of it. Tell yourself you can't have it for a week, and watch how
that's what I tell
changes.
People now that, they're like, well, I don't understand how you could, choose something over. I don't understand addiction at all. And I'm like, put your phone down for 24 hours. And every time you think about picking it up, just know that's what it's like being an addict. And that's the best, comparison that I can think of.
Oh, we are heavily addicted
absolutely.
to a lot of stuff we don't attribute to as addiction.
Absolutely.
Kids are addicted to video games. I mean, there's a whole lot of things.
Yeah, there is. So in 2015, he got arrested. I lost the house. The kids went to stay with my parents. Their dad, Drew, my son stayed with his dad for a while. My daughter went to my mom's. And so now here I am. Husband's in jail. I lost the house. The kids ain't with me. So I wilded out a little bit, a whole lot. And
a little bit,
a
a lot.
and lied about it. He's sitting in jail and I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I promise. And so when he calls me in 3 months and he's like, hey, it's Monday. He's like, hey, I'm getting out Friday. I'm like, oh no. So here I am having to come off of it by myself, still go to my 9 to 5 job every day, and still function like a normal person. And the toll that it takes on your mind and your body, and then just stopping it cold turkey is rough. But I did it. And within a month, we were both in jail for a domestic that I started. I woke him straight up out the bed to go to jail. I was just irate over nothing just because I was so off.
The mental part of it, with the
because
detox.
I had the detox, and I hadn't got the right combination of medicine, or maybe I had too much medicine. It was always something. My kids would be, if I was in a mood, they'd be like, "You took your medicine," which made me even madder. A lot of days.
Yeah.
I cried a lot.
Well, let's take another pause, because we're probably fixing to go into the next journey here. So we're going to hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
It was almost instant. I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Tabitha, you woke up to go to jail.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that.
It was my first time.
Oh.
And I was not happy. So the cops show up the night we were living in an apartment. The cops showed up and we both had marks on us. He was trying to restrain me. So we both had carpet burn. So we go to jail. We get out. I get kicked out of the apartment and we move in with his dad. And that's where we stayed for a while. That was in April. In July, we were drinking, and he hit me for the first time. Actually hit me twice that day. And I told him that was it. If he ever put another hand on me, I was leaving. And he didn't for about 6 more months. And New Year's that year, drinking again. And he went to sleep, so I covered him up on the couch where we were. I laid down on the couch, went to sleep, and I woke up to him screaming at me, calling me names, because he was cold in the car, covered up with carpet. And I'm like, well, I mean, you were asleep on the couch. That's not my fault. So when I get to the car, he's beat the dash out of the car, broke the turning signal handle off. So now I'm fuming, and I have to drive a car home like this, which was just, like 2 houses down, but still. So by the time we got there, I was just angry. And he kept picking at me. That night ended with my mom coming to get me. I had a goose egg knot on my head and 2 black eyes and a busted lip. So I left. He went downhill for a while. I started doing meth again, and it was just a whirlwind of crazy. And I was talking during this time is when I realized that I'd been mad at God all these years. I was having a conversation, and we were in my car, and we were just talking, and I was telling the story, and I was just crying, and that's when it hit me. I was mad at God, and I blamed him because I was real good at playing the victim. The domestic, everybody's, oh, poor pitiful you, when in reality, I woke him up and started that fight. So I've learned how to own my stuff, and I'm not a victim. I'm an adult, and I've made choices that have led to all these consequences that I've had to deal with. So he was going to help me get clean. So I go back to him. We both ended up strung out and back in jail. The cops came in and found drugs and all this other stuff. So we go to jail. I bond out. That violates his probation. He goes on the run. I follow along behind him, but I still go to court on my court dates because I ain't never been in trouble, real trouble. So that lasted 2 months, and then he got picked up again, and then there I was, and I told him on the phone, I was like, I'm done. And I went to bed that night, and I cried myself to sleep, and I prayed for the first time in a long time for God to help me get my life back, help me fix it. I woke up 2 hours later to being arrested.
Wow.
And even then I knew that was God, and that was the only way I was going to quit at that point, because I couldn't. I wanted to quit. I'd already told my mom, everybody that I was on drugs, and my mom was offering me all kinds of things to get me to just quit and stop hanging out with my friends, and told her I wasn't ready.
I coach a lot of parents sometimes that are dealing with, adult kids that are dealing with addiction and stuff, and trying to just keep them out of jail, out of the justice system. But sometimes, and I wish I could line up so many girls in that jail to be able to say, jail saved my life, jail saved my life. Sometimes that is God's way of intervening, and we can get in God's way of not allowing that intervention to occur. So I'm glad you said that.
I seen a lady doing a Facebook video one day. She was a recovering addict, and she was in her closet middle of the night. This is on my heart, I gotta say it. And she said, if you love an addict, sometimes you have to let them fall.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my mom, I was like, stop helping me. It got to a point where I was like, just stop. I said, I might end up in jail, or I might, be homeless or whatever, but stop helping me, because the more you help me, the more bad I keep doing.
There was no way for you to ever hit a rock bottom.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could see that, and you being in it can say that, like, yes, I hope that is something that people take away from this, because some people are just going to have to hit a rock bottom.
So this was 2017. I get out of jail in 2018, and I did okay for a couple of years. I'm not going to say I did good. I did lie to myself for a long time and say I stayed sober for almost 2 years. I just didn't do meth for almost 2 years. I drank and I smoked weed and I, did pills, whatever. I just didn't do my drug of choice. So this go around with it, I dropped 100 pounds, and lost absolutely everything I owned, along with my desire to live. this is where I was hopeless.
Mm.
We finally split up because he went back to jail, and I started seeing somebody else. And his drug of choice was a little different than mine, but I thought I could save him, and I thought he was going to save me. And neither of those things happened. I did his drug of choice, OD'd, and everything was just really different after that. Like I was really depressed, and I was unmedicated because I quit taking everything. I was absolutely miserable, and I didn't see any way out. My daughter wrote her book, which at the time broke me. I spiraled after I read it, but in the long run, that was a good thing. I needed that. I needed to experience that feeling of hopelessness and the homelessness that followed it, and the addiction and all of the things that I went through. I needed to experience those things because God wants to use me to help people. And if I can't relate, I can't help you. So he let me go through a lot of things because I do have free will. And I feel like it's made me more appreciative of life in general, more appreciative of my kids, of absolutely everything that God does do for me and through me. So I ended up in jail again. I got arrested, which violated my probation. And I was like, I need rehab. I've got to go. I've got to go to rehab. So I hired a lawyer. I hired a lawyer on a violation, knowing I did it. But I just wanted that. I wanted him to get me into rehab because I tried to go the first time and they told me it wouldn't do me any good. So I turned myself in on my violation. I failed the drug test miserably. I lit the cup up, everything. I sat in jail for 2 months. And 2 weeks before I got to go to rehab, the guy that I was with died.
Oh, wow.
There was 4 girls in the pod with me, and they were like, we've got to do something different. We can't, I don't want to be sitting on these steps, and somebody talking, or y'all be sitting here talking about, well, she was good, whatever. I said, we've got to make a change. Every single one of us is in recovery today. And it just makes my heart happy that we said it and we meant it.
Yeah.
And I hate that it had to take something like that for it to click with me. But it did.
Yeah.
And a week after his funeral, I got to go to the Hope Center, and that's where I started having the relationship. I was ready. I was ready to submit. I was ready to lay it down. I was done. I was willing to do anything they told me to do at that center. No medication, fine. I'm good. I'll be fine without it. You want me to go do these fundraisers and do car washes and stand in the street and roadblock it? I don't care. I'm going to do it. And I did. And I worked that program. And I'm just very thankful. I don't say that the Hope Center saved me, but God did use them as a vessel to get to me.
Yeah.
And through that, I sent a letter to one of my friends telling her, come get you some of this Actrite. They're giving it away in Portland.
Get some Actrite.
And 2 months after I went in, she went in. 2 months after she got there, she got her son in. So it's a domino effect of recovery. And it's amazing what God will do if you stop trying to take the pen.
Yeah.
He's already wrote the story. Stop trying to take that pen, sit down, get out of his way, let him do it, because he will.
Yeah.
He will.
Yeah.
And today I am, like you said, 22 months clean. I'm happy. I have a relationship with both of my kids. I have 30 something the sisters in recovery. I have a recovery family.
Yeah.
I go to meetings. I do the things. I tell my story when possible. And I will tell all the truth. I did ugly things, and I wasn't behaving any kind of good.
It helps other people to be able to. The more raw and vulnerable you can be, it
Mhm.
lets the guards down for other people to be able to do the same.
And at the end of the day, that's what I want to do. I want to help people. I would love to have some sober living, something set up in the
Yeah.
community, um, because I know what it's like for some of these girls that don't have anywhere to go when they get out. They have an option. They can go back home to what broke them and hope that they can stay strong, or they try to stay around the center. Um, but there's a lot of rehabs now, and there's a lot of people finishing these programs. So there's a lot of people that need a place to go, a safe
Oh,
place.
it's so true. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Tabitha, I want to just take a few minutes to venture down one road with you. A lot of times when people are in active addiction and they're ready for that change, whether that lands them in jail, they may be in the trap house, they may be anywhere. But when they know, I want to change and do different, there's this fear or this nervousness about change, and not knowing what to expect going into a recovery home. So, let's go down that road for just a minute. What was going to the Hope Center like for you? What did you gain with your time there?
It was, I'm an only child,
Mhm.
so it was a lot. Been in a house with 25 other, females, all going through the same things I'm going through. Learning how to get along with that many girls. I mean, I know you've been in jail, but you're not best friends in there a whole lot of times. You're doing what you got to do. But when I got to the Hope Center, I'll never forget, it was right before Christmas. And when I walked through those doors, it smelled like heaven. They were cooking. There was food. Everybody was coming to help me with my bags and, telling me welcome home and, just loving on me. And it was not what I expected. So we did Bible studies, and we did not listen to any secular music. It was all faith-based. Everything was, if it didn't glorify God, we couldn't watch it, we couldn't sing it, we couldn't read it. And in the beginning, I was like, this is stupid, I don't listen to, my radio is always on K-Love now because of the mindset that it puts me in. When I do try to listen to old stuff, I'm like, this is terrible. Like he hits me with that conviction real quick. Like, what are you doing? Turn this off. So, just understanding the relationship is what God wants, that he wants me to want him. And that's why he lets us get broken. We make our own decisions and we break ourselves, but that's when we go to him. That's when we really are ready to lay it down and surrender it. And I would tell absolutely anybody, and I have told many people, if you are in that situation, if you're in jail or if you're not in jail, if you're still in addiction and you want the help, call that number, get on that website, just do it. It will be the best decision you've ever made. God will absolutely restore everything that you've caused your own self to lose through this addiction. And then some. Joel 2:25. He
Restore
will
the years the locusts have eaten, quick.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's my advice. Because if he will do it for me, he'll do it for you.
Now, Tabitha, even today, you've already graduated the program. You continue to go out and pour into those girls there, mentoring them. You go around and share your story, volunteering, going to the schools to work with, troubled teens there. You're doing a lot of things. And God can take anything that we go through, the brokenness, the bad, and use it for his good. That's what Romans 8:28 tells us. He'll work all things for the good of those that love him and are called according to his purpose. And you've got a purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are walking in it. And so many of those girls look to you for a light, And
I just love them. I go out once a week and I do counsel. And they've got several people in the community that come and do that. And they're always looking for more. They're always looking for people that want to pour back into these girls. And that's where it happens. Well, I know my counselor, I had two different ones. I had one of the interns was my counselor. She's now paid staff at the center. She was my first counselor, and I thank God every day that that I had her in the beginning, because she's got a direct line. She's got a direct line to him, and she helped me be comfortable enough to start praying out loud and putting myself out there. 2 years ago, if you'd have told me I'd be doing something like this or speaking at churches or doing any of the things that I'm doing, I would have told you was crazy. you was probably on the same drugs I was on at the time, because I wouldn't. I've always been shy. But now I know that if I tell my story, somebody, even if just one person hears it and relates to it, and it clicks, and they're like, I want to get help, and they do it. It's not
this is going to sound like a crazy question, but we're about to close out for the day. For those people who are out there on the fence, and they might be thinking, I might regret it if I choose recovery over addiction. Have you ever regretted that?
Absolutely not. I've never, not even once regretted it. And what I tell people in, recovery, when you start replaying those good times, play that memory all the way through. Don't stop while you're having fun. Go on 2 hours later when you're back home and you're arguing with this one, or you're out and you're looking for this and you ain't got no money and you're losing stuff.
Yeah.
Play that all the way through.
Yes.
And the other thing is, I totally blanked what the other thing was. It must not have been important. Must have not been.
You have inspired. You've put out a bunch of inspiration today. So much. And there's a lot to be had. So if you are watching today, anybody who's struggling in addiction, families who are dealing with their loved ones struggling in addiction, please share this with them, because her story may be the thing that just sparks a little hope in somebody's life. And there's something that just takes that little light, that little glimmer of hope to get started. So hope you guys have enjoyed today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching Bold Brave TV and The Way to Break Free. Like and subscribe so that you'll be notified each week when we go live, and we'll see you next week.
This has been The Way to Break Free with your host, Angela Pedigo. The one thing Angela attributes her personal victories to is her relationship with God and her deep faith. Tune in each week and hear stories and testimonies of people in personal and professional trenches and how they overcome them with their own faith in God. The Way to Break Free has something for everyone, everywhere. Right here, Wednesdays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave